The text arrived at exactly 6:42 p.m., glowing cold and blue on my phone like a verdict already decided. You weren't invited to dinner. My wife doesn't want you there. For a moment, the world went completely silent. The kettle screamed on the stove, but I didn't hear it. My fingers trembled as if the phone had suddenly grown heavier, as if those words carried the weight of an entire lifetime crashing down on my chest. I read the message again. And again. Each time, it cut deeper, clean, sharp, merciless. This was my son. The boy I carried for 9 months. The boy whose fevered forehead I kissed through sleepless nights, whose scraped knees I cleaned with shaking hands, whose future I built with sacrifice after sacrifice. And now, I was being uninvited from his life through a text message. I stood alone in my small kitchen, the walls stained with years of quiet survival. The apartment smelled faintly of detergent and old wood. This was not the home I once dreamed of. After my husband died, the world shrank quickly. Friends disappeared. Family drifted. And my son, my last anchor, married and slowly slipped away too, pulled by a woman who smiled politely but never met my eyes. Her name was Layla. From the beginning, I felt it, that invisible tension, like static in the air. She was beautiful, sharp, confident. Everything I once wanted to be before life taught me how to bend instead of shine. I tried. God knows I tried. I brought gifts, cooked meals, swallowed insults disguised as jokes. I told myself love meant endurance. But endurance has a breaking point. I replied to my son with shaking hands. Okay. Take care. 2 words. That's all I could manage. Pride and pain held my throat hostage. I poured the boiling water into my cup, watched the tea bag bleed color into it. Just like my heart bleeding into something I pretended was calm. My reflection in the microwave door startled me, older than I felt, eyes hollowed by disappointment. When did I become this woman? The one people could discard so easily. That night, memories attacked me relentlessly. I remembered working double shifts at the factory after my husband's accident left him bedridden. I remembered selling my jewelry to pay my son's college fees. I remembered promising myself that one day, when he was settled, I would finally rest. Instead, I was alone. Unwanted. Uninvited. The next morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. Is this Mrs. Rahman? A woman asked. Yes. This is HR from Crescent Consulting. We reviewed your application. My heart leapt painfully. I had applied weeks ago, desperately, quietly, without hope. At 52, who wanted a woman with tired eyes and a resume full of gaps shaped like sacrifice? We'd like you to come in for an interview. I sat down hard on the edge of my bed. Tears spilled before I could stop them, not from joy alone, but from the strange realization that something, somewhere, still wanted me. The interview was brutal. Younger candidates. Smarter clothes. Confident voices. But when it was my turn, I spoke honestly. About resilience. About loss. About learning to stand back up when life keeps pushing you down. I didn't pretend to be fearless. I told them I was strong because I was afraid, and still showed up. 3 days later, I got the job. It wasn't glamorous. Administrative work. Long hours. Modest pay. But it was mine. For the first time in years, I woke up with purpose that didn't revolve around pleasing someone else. And then, another message arrived. My son again. Why didn't you say anything? I stared at the screen. Say what? That his absence had carved a hole in my chest. That his silence screamed louder than any argument. That his wife's comfort mattered more than my existence. Instead, I typed. I'm learning to be quiet. It hurts less. He didn't reply. Weeks passed. Work consumed me. Slowly, I felt pieces of myself returning. The woman who laughed, who dreamed, who once had fire in her spine. Colleagues noticed. Complimented me. Listened when I spoke. And then one evening, as I was leaving the office, I overheard a conversation that froze me mid-step. She doesn't know yet, a voice whispered. She's his mother. She'll find out eventually, another replied. My name followed. My son's name followed. And in that moment, I knew something was terribly, dangerously wrong. I didn't sleep that night. The words echoed in my head like footsteps in a dark hallway. She doesn't know yet. Every scenario clawed at my mind. Illness. Debt. Betrayal. By morning, my body felt hollow, but my resolve was solid. At work, I watched. I listened. And when the opportunity came, I asked questions carefully, like someone testing thin ice. The truth revealed itself piece by piece, cruel and methodical. My son had taken a loan. A large one. The guarantor. Me. My signature had been forged. I sat in the bank office, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, as the manager slid papers across the desk. My name stared back at me in ink I did not recognize. "If payments are missed," he said gently, "you are legally responsible." I laughed. A broken, disbelieving sound escaped my throat. My son wouldn't do this. But the evidence didn't care about my faith. When I confronted him, his voice cracked, not with remorse, but with fear. "Layla said you wouldn't understand," he whispered. "And you did?" I asked. "She said you owe us. After everything." That sentence shattered something sacred inside me. I walked out before he could see me break. For days, I drowned in grief and rage. Betrayal tastes metallic, like blood. I thought of all the times I chose him over myself. And now, my kindness had been rewritten as debt. But grief did not defeat me. I consulted a lawyer. Gathered evidence. My hands shook, but my mind was clear. If they wanted to erase me, I would force them to see me instead. The confrontation happened at a family gathering. One I was invited to, suddenly, nervously. I walked in dressed simply, spine straight, heart armored. When I placed the documents on the table, silence fell. "I didn't raise you to steal from me," I said calmly. "And I didn't sacrifice my life to be discarded when inconvenient." Layla's face drained of color. My son cried. But I felt nothing but a strange, quiet power rising in my chest. "I'm not here to destroy you," I continued. "I'm here to reclaim myself." I withdrew legal action, with conditions. Boundaries. Accountability. Distance. As I left, my son reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. But I didn't hold on either. That night, alone again, I realized something terrifying and beautiful. I was no longer afraid of losing them. Freedom is quieter than I expected. No fireworks. No applause. Just mornings where my chest felt lighter and my reflection looked back at me without shame. I moved to a smaller place closer to work. I redecorated slowly. Plants, light curtains, colors I liked without asking anyone's opinion. I started therapy. I started saying no without explaining myself. Months later, my son called. His voice was different. Softer. Older. "I miss you," he said. "I miss the version of you that respected me," I replied. Silence stretched between us, not hostile, just honest. "I'm trying," he whispered. "I know," I said. "But trying doesn't erase damage." We began again, carefully. On my terms. As for Layla, she never apologized. But she never controlled me again either. Power shifted the moment I stopped begging for love. At work, I was promoted. Trusted. Valued. I mentored younger women who reminded me of who I once was, afraid of becoming invisible. One evening, after a long day, I sat by my window watching the city lights flicker like distant stars. I thought about the text message that once broke me. "You weren't invited." I smiled softly. Because now, I knew the truth. I no longer needed invitations to exist. I no longer needed permission to belong. I had built a life that fit me, not one that consumed me. And if my story teaches anything, it's this. A woman pushed aside is not a woman defeated. She is a woman waking up.